Hello, I'm Domeyko Rowland. Welcome to this session. We're going to be talking about the most important subject of all, which is the intelligence of life and how it actually affects you and your ability to create your life in the way that you want it to be. So regardless of what area it is, whether it's relationships, money, creativity, career, interconnections, joining in, anything at all that's in your life, obviously behind all that is this intelligence. So let's look and see what it is and how it is that you can use it to create or manifest more of the things that you want. Now, this intelligence is something that clearly exists within everything. It is there, ever present, in an acorn. It can grow an acorn to an oak tree, not into a fish. In the DNA of everybody. The DNA is little specks of incredible memory, and intelligence is within it, obviously. It can replicate itself, grow into any manner of life form that you can see, all through nature, from the tiniest microbe to the gigantic galaxies out there that we're all familiar with, quite obviously, when we look to the skies at night. Intelligence runs all of that as well. And of course, it is within you and everybody else. Now, it is this intelligence that actually causes everything in life to grow. And we call this intelligence the superconscious. So you're dealing with the highest level of intelligence within your mind. You have your unconscious mind, your subconscious mind, your conscious mind, and then the superconscious mind. So if you understand what the superconscious is, you very quickly realize that it is that part of your mind, in the way that it's connected to the whole of life, that brings to you all those things that you want, regardless of what they actually are. So let's look and see now with this simple illustration how it is that you create your life. Now, this is a little diagram of a thermometer, a sort of thermometer. This is called the energy pole. Now, every human being has an energy pole within themselves. And in this energy pole, at certain levels of it, you have access to certain kinds of behaviors. These are called the layerings of the subpersonalities. So down the bottom of the thermometer, in other words, when you are low in energy, down here you only have access to those subpersonalities, those constellation, if you like, of subpersonalities that can behave in certain ways to do with low energy, which are usually negative emotion, anger, frustration, disappointment, sadness, all the way down to depression, these kinds of things. So when your energy is low, you only have access to those. When you have a bit more energy, then the subpersonalities you have access to are more varied, slightly more positive, still pretty negative down there. And as you go through the energy pole, the thermometer rises, so to speak, you get access to different constellations of subpersonalities until you get right to the very top here, which is the superconscious. So depending on what level of energy you are in, your whole life reflects back to you that particular frequency, if you like. And you can only choose to behave in the ways that those particular subpersonalities allow you to behave in. If you are in low energy, you cannot behave with subpersonalities that come out when you're full of energy. You find it difficult, for instance, to be creative. You find it difficult to communicate well. You find it difficult to get life to respond to you and other people in the way that you want. You find things are blocked in your life in so many different areas. And what many people do is they try and analyze and work out each of the levels of this energy pole. In other words, what are these subpersonalities? Why are they like this? Why am I locked into these patterns? All that kind of thing. When in fact, all they really need to do is to raise their energy levels higher and higher up the energy pole within themselves, and of course then reach into the higher states of consciousness, into the enlightened states of consciousness as well. And also what happens is that every level you are on, with those subpersonalities that you're expressing, what happens is that those subpersonalities cause you to make choices in your life to prove that they are correct. So in other words, let's say you're down here and you're frustrated and disappointed somewhere in amongst these particular subpersonalities because that's where your energy level is. Now, what that means, what that does, is that you then find things in your life to prove that it's worth being frustrated and disappointed, that you are right, that life is frustrating and disappointing. Whereas if you're up here somewhere where far more positivity is available, you find you can prove the existence of these two by finding wonderful, fulfilling, enjoyable events, circumstances, and other people that match these particular subpersonalities. So instead of going through all the different layerings of subpersonalities, instead of going through some sort of therapeutic exploration or some analysis or something like that, interesting though that might be, and helpful if you have real trauma to deal with, but instead of doing that for an ordinary person, what you do is you raise your energy level. And of course, all the great spiritual, personal growth, mystery schools, all those kinds of paths are actually, when you look into them very deeply, you find that what they actually are ways of increasing your energy. Because unless you increase your energy, you won't be able to change anything. And another mistake that people make is that they try to resolve the subpersonalities that are down here that are giving them trouble. But you see, that is a bit of a difficult thing to do, simply because they are what they are. These subpersonalities have been molded into what they are. So if you have one that's frustrated and disappointed, that's what it does. That's all it does. There's no use trying to make a subpersonality that's frustrated and disappointed or unable to get what you want into one that is the opposite of that, that's full of beans, that's positive, that's expressive, that can make its life whatever it wants to be. It doesn't do that. In order to get in touch with those sorts of experiences, you have to move up the energy pole. So that's really a sort of potted version of human life and what you need to do. Now, what happens for us all is that we hear about the higher states, we hear about how is it that we can create our life to be whatever we want it to be. And in order to do that, it's very, very necessary to access the superconscious, because up here, where the superconscious is the highest intelligence, genius, brilliant communication, the ability to literally create your life to be what you want, to get great discoveries, and all those kinds of things. And let's just sum that up by saying that the superconscious is used by the greatest artists, musicians, business geniuses, billionaires, inventors, scientists, healers, and saints. The superconscious is available to you. It's not cut off from you. You don't have to be a special person in some way to access it. It's already completely within yourself. From the top of your head to the tip of your toes, the superconscious is already there, right throughout you, and available for you to use in whatever way that you want. But of course, you have to know how to actually do that. So I've used it actually for my own success. I'm happy to show you how to become a master of manifesting, because the secret is manifesting. And it is, of course, a far more pleasurable and intelligent way to live. Now, what does manifest mean? To manifest means to bring into being, to create something, to cause a certain experience to arise in your life deliberately and consciously, not by accident, but by deliberation, by full intention of your being. And the secret of manifesting is that the faculty within you that does the manifesting is, of course, the superconscious. Keep that in mind. Now, this knowledge is the secret wisdom of the ancients, that people studied for thousands of years and worked out how to do all this. I'm going to show you the steps quite briefly here. And what I've done is I brought it up to date for you with a step-by-step method of how to do it for yourself. And this is not, as far as I know, available actually anywhere else in the world. But fortunately it is unique, easily used, and gives results, which is what we all want. Results, results, results. So this is the kind of thing that we're looking at, and there are benefits for you, and you will discover these following things when you enter into a sort of skill, if you like. You could call it a skill. It's not quite like a skill, but in a way it is. It's a skill of using the power of manifesting to attract into your life what you want. It's actually brilliant, and it actually is something that all the brightest people use, so you might as well use it too. You see, you're already manifesting. Everything that happens in your life is something that you have contributed to. Everything you choose, in other words, not the earthquakes or the volcanoes and those sorts of things, but everything that you choose to do has obviously come from something within yourself. And when you choose to do something and you follow it through and you manage to do it, that's called manifesting, to bring into being. So where it comes from, of course, is the subconscious, and occasionally, but not that often, the conscious mind. So the first thing that you need to know is, what is it that stops you from being able to manifest what you want? That's really important, because if you don't know what it is that is actually stopping you being conscious of what is your natural ability, then how can you move forward? You can't. You've got to understand exactly what that is. The second point is how to resolve all negative emotion and replace it with a continual inner strength, great feelings, and high energy. Now, here is a very important distinction in this, as I've said earlier, and I want to emphasize it for you, that you don't so much clear up the negative emotion. You resolve it in the sense that you realize that negative emotion is a result of a low energy level. When you're overtired, when you're stressed, when you are under pressure from something or other, something awful happens, what goes on? Your energy is depleted. And when your energy is depleted, you feel negative. So it's not that you remove negative emotion, it's you resolve that belief that it is something that's there, that's you, and there's nothing you can do, and all that kind of thing. You just lift yourself up through a particular skill, which I'll mention in a moment, where you are on the higher level of the energy pole and you experience these positive emotions and, of course, great energy, obviously. Number 3, what is important to know is how to integrate with the superconscious to manifest whatever you want in your relationships, career, finances, creativity, and so on. Now, what does that mean? How can you integrate with the superconscious? Because in truth, you are already filled up with the superconscious, but you have within you something that separates you from that direct knowledge. And this is the crux of it all. And that something that separates you from the superconscious is called avidya in India. Avidya, ignorance of your true nature. In other words, what we all do is we identify with the ego, with that collection of subpersonalities and conditioning which have been embedded into us during our upbringing and form what's called the personality. So we start to identify with the personality, which is the collection of subpersonalities, and that gives us a sense of individuality, of me. I am this person with this name and this job, and I live like this, and so on. So that sense of me is a sense of being an individual. Now, if you're an individual, then you are separate from life itself. Even though life is one field of intelligence, a universe, uni means one, verse means vibration or rhythm, so you are there as a being living in this single field of life intelligence, which we call the superconscious, But due to the processes of civilization, we have all adopted this ego, this sense of individuality, and because it's so strong and so embedded with so many things from the past, we identify with it so powerfully that it separates us from the reality that we are in fact in touch with the superconscious, this highest intelligence that pervades everything in the universe all of the time. So what's necessary to do is to learn how to unlock the power of the ego, your ego, over your life in productive and life-enhancing ways. Because the big problem is that people have been trying to get rid of their ego in various spiritual and personal development paths. This is completely wrong. You can spend the rest of your life trying to do that and have no success. What is important is that you have to allow the ego, your sense of individuality, particularly at a subconscious level, to realize that the truth of the matter is that you and the rest of life are one single thing. This is the important thing, because unless you realize that and you accept that, how can you use the superconscious to manifest what you want in your life? You can't. If you're identified with the ego, that's who and what you are. So what's necessary to do is to unlock that, again in productive and life-enhancing ways, and the way that you do that is you learn how to manifest. Because if you can manifest something purely through your mind, if you can do that, then what that means is that the ego, with its sense of individuality, is actually based on a false premise. And your ego has enough intelligent subpersonalities within it to grasp that. So let's say you're able to do something simple. Everybody always mentions finding a car park. I'm not sure that's the great one, but it is certainly an interesting one when it happens quite consistently. But let's say you learn how to, using special techniques, cause somebody you haven't seen for years to give you a call, just out of the blue, purely through your mind. Or you cause somebody to walk past you who's wearing a green coat with a red hat, an unusual combination. Or you can create something where you see a particular kind of car, or you have some information about a holiday to a rare place that very few people know about. Somehow or other you manage to manifest somebody who's been there, or a book with information about it. See, it doesn't matter what it is. Once you learn how to manifest the simple things, the unemotional things, then what you find if you do half a dozen of those, that your ego will then realize, oh my God, there is something far more powerful than me in the universe, because, you know, the ego is me, me, me. It's all about me. And it realizes there is this higher power because it's actually worked. It's actually happened. You've been able to create some simple things. So that's the first way to start. That's the productive and life-enhancing ways. There's special things you have to choose, but they'll all be explained for you. Number 5 is how to transform the way you live into one of a fully conscious creator. Now, this is where you do the real flip. This is where you realize you've got more powers, sort of 6 senses if you like, more powers than just your actions and behaviors. Because most people just live believing that that's all they've got. I've got the things I can do, the actions I can take, and the ways that I can behave, and that's basically my powers in life. But of course, that's not all there is. Even though most people just run on that, you have this vast, incredible, brilliant resource called the superconscious, which you rarely consciously use. You have to use it very, very consciously, and you have to use your superconscious to manifest what you want, whatever those experiences might actually be. Number 6, you have to learn how to remain in a powerful, positive and productive mindset. And that, of course, means staying at the top of the energy pole. You use special ways of living, special methods that you can use to do that, because if you do that, if you're high, in other words, then what you find is that life responds appropriately. And what's the point of being low or de-energized or unhappy? Really boring, doesn't work. You need to charge yourself up so you can live like that. And then you can do things that you want, and when difficulties or challenges arise, they're like water off a duck's back, which is where you want to be. And number 7, how to make your life everything in your life your friend and servant rather than a challenge. This is the important thing to do, that life is something that should be enjoyed, that responds to you, that brings you your desires, all the things that you'd like to live out. It awakens you to higher states of consciousness, to great feelings of bliss and ecstasy and divine love even, those kinds of things. That's what that one means, making life your friend, in fact. So this means you discover how to recreate any part of your life that you want. To recreate. You've created who and what you are so far, and what you need to know through the power of manifesting is how to recreate something. You need to build on what you already have. You don't try and rework the old subpersonalities, the old mindset. That is what it is. Like your hand is your hand, it's not going to change into a foot. In the same way, your mindset that you've been conditioned to be is what it is. That is the program of your life, and you need to know how to build another program on top of it, what's called a meta program. And also what it means is you can experience magical events and increasing coincidences. You see, when you start to use your superconscious to manifest things, you literally consciously create coincidences. So instead of them happening randomly, you have the ability to actually cause them to come into your life. And this is because the more access you have to the superconscious, the more easy it is to draw things, so to speak, to you, or actually it's the other way around, you're really manifesting them out of your own being. And what you find is that many of them are incredible coincidences. So every time you have a coincidence, it means your superconscious is trying to peep through to show you what it can do. And then, of course, you can wake up to the reality of who and what you truly are at essence. And what that means is that you are I'll say it again. What that means is that you are actually the superconscious itself. It's such a big idea to get in there, but this is the truth. And if you study all the ancient paths, you'll find that's exactly what they all said. That's the whole thing. That's the game that we need to do. So everything can be improved in your life with more consciousness, and this is how to get it. I'm going to show you in a moment. And the first thing you do is you unmask the true power of your mind. You see, the word persona means a mask. The word personality means a mask. So if you unmask the true power of your mind, what you're doing is you're releasing the hold that the ego, which is all the subpersonalities, all aspects of your personality, you're releasing the hold that that has over you. And as you slowly but surely decondition yourself, you release this gripping of the past, you find that quite spontaneously all these powers of the mind arise. They start to come automatically just through going through the proper process of entering into a relationship with the superconscious, accessing it and using it very, very specifically to get what you want. So there's nothing more fulfilling than learning how to manifest what you want with full awareness. If you can use your full awareness to manifest the various things that you would like to have in your life, not only do you have a greater chance of getting them, but you also find that your feelings improve dramatically. You start to be freed from the dead hand of the past, and you find that you fill with energy, you're filled with joy and happiness and strength and courage and all those wonderful things, and life starts to work for you. So it's obviously the most intelligent path to pursue. And what I've done now is that I've created the Superconscious Manifesting Home Study course. We've been doing it live, and now it's available for you as a home study course on audios and PDFs. You get notes and this kind of thing. It's a very, very thorough course of 8 audio sessions, each with notes. And they come from the webinars that we did and have been doing, and I've still got a few just to put together for you. And what that means is that you will have a complete system in a step-by-step way of the most extraordinary, interesting, and fascinating information that any human being can ever discover. I've been doing this work for nearly 50 years, dare I say it now, and what I found, of course, is as I study things at ever deeper levels, and never a day actually goes by that I don't study something, when I study things at these ever deepening levels, new insights, new distinctions, new understandings arise in my mind. The superconscious gives them to me actually, and I'm able to put them in a way that anybody can understand and save themselves decades of trying to find this information out for yourself. So if you really want to transform your life, you need to access your superconscious quite clearly. And the way to access your superconscious is to learn how to manifest, which means bring into being, bring into creation those experiences that you want, regardless of what they might be, small or huge, doesn't matter. So what I'm doing now is that I'm using the introductory fee for anybody who would like to take advantage of the whole of the course that's going to be available for you at the click of a button, a downloadable course, and you will be able to use this for yourself in your life. So if you have specific things in your life that you want to improve, maybe you have a relationship issue that you just can't crack and you don't know why, this will help you dramatically to do that. If you have some financial challenge, there's no use battling your financial issues with the same old sub-personalities that grew during your upbringing and that you downloaded from mum and dad and your teachers and whoever else. No use using those. They can't do it if they haven't already done it. If you're born in a rich family, of course, you have different sub-personalities, you can do it. But if you haven't been born in such circumstances, there is no use using the same old sub-personalities. So you need to meta-program, create the new ones, and you create the new ones most easily by actually getting into conscious manifesting. So you can use that for anything. We've used it for health. My wife and I, we've used it for creative powers. We've used it for family issues, bringing up the children, in other words, in the best way possible. You can use it for anything. Fitness is a great one to use it for. There is probably nothing. I like writing personally. Many people I know use it for art, crafts, career advancement, whatever it is. So save yourself the decades. Learn how to manifest with your superconscious. Grab the course now at this introductory fee because it will go up. We only have a small, short window of opportunity. So you can get it now at the introductory fee. You just have to read below the video. Click the button now, get it, and you will have it on your computer within a few hours. That's how quickly things come today, quite obviously. So I'm sure you'll be grateful. I'm sure you'll realize that it's important to keep your learning going. There's no use staying exactly where you are. Grab the information that would take you years to find out for yourself. I've done it. Not only have I done it, I've taught it to other people. We've had great success. In fact, this is one of the fastest success stories we've had from so many people of any of the work that we've done. So it really is the refined knowledge, the refined information that's easy to apply, quick to understand, and absolutely valuable for every aspect of your life. So please click the button now, get your copy, and I'm sure you'll be absolutely thrilled with it and be able to apply it immediately. So thanks for listening. See you again.